with your trades, the week ahead and a week of consolidation to marginal negative bias, so to speak. And on net basis and closing in Friday, we've knocked down below that 5,900 mark.
And mind you, while it was not heavy news flow, a lot of stocks on the index reacted. So while it may be flat for the week, but a lot of commodity names did very well, a lot of auto names did very well, and a few names disappointed as well. So in a way, there are a lot of stock reactions that happened this week.
Oh yes, individual pockets of strength. Though sectorally you would have to say it was only the auto pack which actually held out. Barring that, consumer durables almost a 5% knock. Power, capital goods, realty, media, FMCG, oil and gas, all these sectors closed in the red by close on Friday. The gainers then, Bajaj Auto, BOB, JSPL, Tata Motors, 8cell Technologies, Reliance Infrastructure did pretty well, as was the case with Sun Pharma as well as Hero MotoCorp. And at the flip side, BHEL was a big drag on the index, almost a 7.5% knockdown coming in from this one stock alone. You also had ITC, Tata Power, NTPC, Bharti, Grasim, as well as ONGC, which were big drags on the indices.
Broader markets were a mixed bag. Actually, it was fairly inactive. The market breadth was in negative for most part of the trading days this week. A few gainers included a Jet Airways, which was up 14% for the week, so strong show by that one. Chola Mandalam and a couple of, KFA did very well. Chola Investment up close to 8%, but KFA should come up as well on your screen. Fairly decent session too. Individually, a lot of pockets had something to show about, but a lot of drags in the broader market space. That was probably the order of the week. Balrampur Chini, for that matter, the entire UP-based sugar space didn't have a great week. 14% down for this one, 51.85. And Bajaj Hindustan, a couple of others also, I'm sure didn't have the best of weeks. That aside, while PC Jewelers was the issue that went through this week, some of the jewelry names didn't have the best of weeks either. So 17% gone for a TBZ. Gitanjali reversed a lot of its gains as well, 10% down for that one. So again, not the best of sessions. There were individual small caps which of course reacted. The retail space came down quite a bit, particularly the likes of Shoppers, which lost around 12%. In this week gone by. So all in all, a mixed bag, but more biased towards the downside, at least for the broader markets. The question to ask is, what do we do in the following week? Because this has, as Aisha said, been a week of consolidation. And to answer that, our experts join us on the show. Sandeep Wagle as well as Deepak Mohani with their sense of the charts. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining in. Sandeep, what do we do next week? It's been a week of consolidation, but a lot of active moves on the index stocks as well. There were stocks which gained 6% and stocks which lost 5 to 6% as well.
Yes, Neeraj, I would agree with you. A lot of churning has happened. The Nifty has corrected from a high of almost 6,000 down to possibly 100, 120 points. If you talk of the cash Nifty, I think I was expecting 5,800 to be tested. Even that did not happen. So that suggests that there is some buying at lower levels. And there will be some stocks and some sectors which will be correcting, and there will be some others which will be moving up. So more or less, I think consolidation as far as the indices are concerned, broadly the Nifty. And individual stocks, I am seeing some strength in the metals, the auto space, and some individual stocks. So I think it will be stock specific, and Nifty, if you talk of the next week or two, will be range bound between 58.50, 59.50.
Okay, the one stock which was the star performer this week has to be Tata Motors, on account of a 14% notch up on the monthly sales numbers for JLR. Good traction coming in on this. Yatin's here to walk us through all the details. Yatin.
Well, Jaguar Land Rover reported a number of 34,650 units when it came to the November sales. We also saw the retail sales for JLR surging by nearly 14% on a year-on-year basis. The growth for JLR was largely led at the retail level and the wholesale level by the Chinese markets, wherein volumes grew by nearly 45%. Also, we had variants like Freelander as well as Evoque, which continued to do really very well in the Chinese and the European markets. Do remember the fact that the US shipments were impacted because of the Hurricane Sandy, and despite that we had JLR which has posted a solid number when it comes to the wholesale figure as well as on the retail front. So clearly analysts are believing that the recovery for JLR volumes have started. They have new launches in the pipeline which may start giving them better sales in the month of February and March going forward, and that is why most of them are anticipating that the Tata Motors stock will possibly touch levels of over 300 rupees in the next few trading sessions.
Okay, Yatin, thanks a lot for getting us that quick update. That was Tata Motors and the monthly sales numbers Well, surprising the street. Deepak, the auto names in general had a fairly decent week. Tata Motors, how does that look on the charts after the week of gains? And maybe a couple of others as well, the likes of Bajaj Auto, which had a fairly decent week too.
Tata Motors has closed today at a 7-month high, and that's after nearly 2 months of running fairly sideways or even a slight bit of downside pressure. So I think it's finally shrugged off a few months of distribution in the stock and should be ready for another move up. In terms of timing for entry, well, it's gone up now 2 days in a row, fairly large rise. So better to wait for a pullback back to maybe somewhere like the 290 levels and then buy it. In terms of putting a stop loss, that will be better.
Okay, so that's the word on Tata Motors. A couple of others like Bajaj Auto as well, as I said, had a fairly decent week too. 7.5% up for that one at 2081. Okay, what else? The commodity space in general was a buzz, but NMDC in particular, with the kind of response that it got and fairly decent compared to some of the other offer for sales from the government side. Gargi is here to sum up all the action that happened in NMDC. Gargi, tell us.
Well, the NMDC OFS received a very good response. The government was looking to raise about 6,000 crore rupees from the issue. They had offered about 39 crore shares to the public for sale, and they received bids for about 68 crore shares, almost 1.7 times the total issue was subscribed. And FI is picking up almost 50% stake from the OFS that they have mentioned. The state-owned company is also bidding for about 40% of the total issue. So clearly a very successful sale that the government launched for NMDC. In fact, most brokerages were pretty bullish on the NMDC offer for sale. The average price at about 149 rupees and the floor price, remember, was about 147. So almost a 2.5 rupee kind of increase that we saw in the average price versus what the floor price was. We've seen a good run up coming in for NMDC in the last 2 trading sessions of the week, mainly on the back of the good subscription that has come in for the offer for sale. If you look at the brokerages, most of them have a buy recommendation. If you look at the target price in the range of almost 180 to 190 rupees. Motilal Oswal, 192 rupees target price. Kotak Mahindra Bank also about 190 rupee target price that they have mentioned for NMDC, and growth prospects look good. If you look at iron ore prices also, they are looking upwards from the next quarter onwards. So overall, it's a good picture coming in for NMDC.
Okay, Gargi, thanks for that. Deepak, want to get you in on NMDC and what the charts are indicating for this one.
It's been languishing quite a bit. I mean, the market had such a good rally until 2 weeks ago. This stock, in fact, has been falling since September. It's come down right from 200 to 150. That's a 25% drop. A little bit of consolidation last week, but it doesn't necessarily spell that that overall decline since September is over yet.
You were trading any of the other metal names? They had a good run, especially on Friday.
Up quite nicely. They were one of the better performers last week. So a fair amount of momentum, whether it's Hindalco, Sterlite, Sagoa, all of them doing fairly well. If you're a day trader, you could look for any opportunity on any day to get a 4-5 hour run there. If you are a swing trader, then better to wait for a day of a dip. Most of these have run up for 2-3 days in a row.
Lots of activity in the mid-cap space as well, while muted in terms of the absolute gains, but lots of news flow that came about, as usual, of course. Let's talk about the NBFC space first, wherein the new guidelines announced, and Poonam is here to give us a sense of what this would mean for some of the NBFCs. Poonam.
Well, 2 of the key proposals that have come up from the draft guidelines on NBFCs by Usha Toyatis. The Tier 1 capital has been raised to 10% from the current 7.5%, and it has been proposed that Tier 1 at 12% for gold loan finance companies, for gold loan finance NBFCs, captive NBFCs, as well as NBFCs lending to the sensitive sector. Also, the second proposal is of increasing the NPA recognition to 90 days from the earlier 180 days norms. Also, another proposal is to increase the standard asset provision to 40 bips versus the 25 bips earlier. So what is the impact of this? The impact would be marginal on majority of the large NBFCs. Most of the NBFCs are well capitalized, and hence on the basis of Tier 1 capital, there would be a very marginal impact on the leverage as well as the ROEs on the basis of this. The secondly, in terms of the NPAs in the NBFCs would definitely rise, but most of the management does state that it would be a one-time impact wherein they would see some increase in the gross NPLs, but also over a period of time the impact on the PNL would be negated. Overall, what the analysts say is that on PFC and REC, the earnings impact would be only around 2 to 4% of the earnings, and for NBFCs like Shriram Transport as well as Mahindra Finance, the earnings impact would be only close to 4 to 6%. Overall, if we just sum up, very marginal impact on the NBFCs, but prudentially these norms are surely going to be good and would hold the NBFCs in much better shape going forward. Over to you.
Okay, Poonam, thanks very much for that. Sandeep, just want to get you in. If there's any NBFC stock that you like, MFSL, for instance, was holding up pretty smartly this week.
Well, the kind of patterns that I'm seeing are not suggesting a bigger move. I mean, there could be spurts which may not be held on to. So I would not want to get into any of these stocks in that space. They can be a one-day wonders, or maybe a 7-8% upside on a day, and then they fizzle out. This is what I have observed in the past also. So I would like to avoid this space.
Okay. The other set of stocks, and well, tons of them actually in the mid-cap space which reacted this week. Let's get in Navneet with a set of some of these which move around on news. Navneet, tell us.
Well, that's right. There were a lot of counters which were in news during the week. I'll start off with Jet Airways. That was up by about over 11% during the week, and basically on the buzz that the company would be selling its stake to a foreign airline, that too at a substantial premium, and that was the reason why the stock went up. It touched its 52-week high during the week. Look at this counter's return on 1-month basis. It's up about 62%, and also it's trading above its all key moving averages like 20, 200 and 100-day moving average. The other counter was Balrampur Chini from the sugar space. The counter fell about 15% during the week after UP government declared its state advisory prices, which is basically the cane prices, and the prices which were declared by the government were higher by 40% on year-on-year basis, and that was the reason why the stock fell sharply, which essentially means higher prices will dent the profitability and the margins of the company. So that was the reason why the stock fell. If you look at this counter on 1-month basis, that fell by about 18%, and also Jindal Stainless was in focus on back of good volumes, and also the stock gained about 9%. If you look at this counter, it hit 52-week high during the week. There was no development coming in for this counter, but it looks like something is brewing as the counter gained 9% on back of high volumes, and on 1-month basis, this counter has gained about 15%.
Okay, Navneet, thanks for that. Deepak, want to get you in on Jet Airways, Balrampur Chini, as well as Jindal Stainless, and if there's anything that you like out of these three names?
Well, Jet Airways has performed throughout the year, hardly any declines, or in comparison to the gains at least, the declines have been very small. One of the top performing stocks actually, if you look over the year in terms of percentage gains among the heavier traded stocks. So this is clearly a candidate which is on quite a run right now, and every decline it's always rewarded shareholders. So I would say stick with Jet Airways above these three. Jindal Steel has started a bit of a move recently, but I mean it's nowhere in the league of say a Jet Airways. Sugar stocks, they've been having their ups and downs. They are not really on a strong wicket. They've had these short runs now and then. So from a long-term perspective, nowhere there at all yet.
Sandeep, any of the urea stocks, I mean, there was a bit of a flavor in some of these stocks on Friday on account of the urea policy. They perked up in the session, an RCF, possibly even a National Fertilizers. But my question is, would you buy or short sell any of the fertilizer stocks on Monday morning?
Neeraj, I don't see a pattern that suggests a buy, that is for sure. To go short also, they are in a band. I mean, talk of an NFL is between 74 and 80. I don't see it crossing 82. So, and there is no signal to sell short also. It is not weak also. So, I really don't think these are in the category where you can create a trade setup. I don't really see that happen, neither a buy nor a sell. So, I would let them be on their own.
Okay, Sandeep, would you go long or stay long on a Jet Airways, or would you, and conversely rather, would you go short on a Balrampur Chini after the decline that we've seen this week?
Neeraj, I would like to go long on a Jet Airways, but possibly on a decline, a little bit of a correction to the tune of 580 to 560. That would be my buying range where I would be more comfortable. Balrampur Chini on the other end, yes, a 15% downside. I would wait for some bit of an up move of 5-7-8% and then try to create a short position. At the bottom is still not made in this stock is what I would say.
Down about 0.5% on a weekly close for the index and a bigger cut really for the broader markets, almost in excess of 1% shaved off for the small cap index. But what about commodities and what really is the week ahead looking like? Manisha is here with all the details. Manisha.
Well, starting with gold then, and while it's off its weekly lows, it still is headed for a third straight week of losses in this week itself. We also have seen silver heading for a biggest weekly declines in the last 7 months. There's no physical buying also coming in as investors are expecting further decline into the prices coming in. The gold and silver prices have declined because of the Fed concerns on the scope and size of measures in sense of stimulus, and also the fiscal cliff worries are still quite high in investors' mind, and that has continued to put pressure. On the lower side, we have seen 1700 breach, and 1650 to 1630 on the lower side is what now the investors are talking about. Same has been the case with crude as well, but this has been quite a newsworthy week for the crude prices. You had reports coming in from OPEC and IEA and EIA as well. All of them are expecting the consumption to improve in this quarter and in much of 2013 as well, and that has led to some support coming back into the prices. But even then, it's between 82 to 88 on the higher side is how you might see the NYMEX crude prices playing up. The base metal prices actually have had the best week in many. It's the 5th straight weekly gain coming in for most of these metals there, especially for copper, which has gained nearly 7% in last 1 month as well. Until the time it holds $8,000 a ton on the higher side, markets are expecting that you might be looking at levels of 8,200, even 8,300 in the coming week itself.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Manisha. So those are some commodity ideas, but what about equity trading ideas? To our experts, Deepak, Monday morning, on what would you initiate a trade?
I would take 2 longs. The market had a reasonably good finish today. It's ended up towards the high of the day. And the Nifty is also sort of showing signs of making at least a short, medium-term bottom around these levels. So the 2 buys, first is Treehouse Education. This is been actually quite a strong gainer for several months now, and it doesn't decline too much. So this is a buy with a stop loss of 268 and a target of 285. This too had a good finish today. You have to pick one of the banks because they have been among the better performance for a while now, and Allahabad Bank is the pick here. Stop loss of 159 and the target of 168.
Sandeep, what is it that you would recommend on Monday morning?
I would go with a buy in Tech Mahindra, stop loss of 926, target of 1036. A buy in Hindustan Zinc, stop loss of 138, target 152. And a buy in Tata Motors. Actually, we are already in the buy mode in Tata Motors at lower levels. I would add on to that, stop loss of 287, target of 300.
Sandeep Bangle, Deepak Mohani, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining in today and giving us your views and recommendations on this leg of your trades. From Ash and myself and everybody who put the show together. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good weekend.